Hello, and welcome back to my daily podcast. Today, I am joined by the beautiful Emma, who is here to give us a conversation about leadership and stepping into our evolution in business and life and leading our own direction. Now, as I'm joined by Emma, the thing that I love about you is that you have evolved through corporate and really stepped into your business and everything that you desire to create here. So, just begin by telling me a little bit about you, who you are, your background, and then we'll have the conversation.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's always good to have a chat. So I'm here in the southeast of Kent. I am outside, just bringing the sunshine vibes while we've got them. I guess so. I started my career when I was 18, fresh out of school, and I just got a job in corporate. I wanted to work in an office. I wanted to earn money. That's all I knew I wanted to do, and I followed that. Got a job, got lucky, and over the 20 years that I was there, I made my way kind of round and up in the organization in an unorganic way. No, sorry, in a not such a usual way, should I say, in a very organic way, but not very usual. So I didn't like become an expert in what I did over 20 years. I flitted from here to there to over there. And whenever I saw what they were doing over there, I wanted to go in that direction. That's what I did. And I did a job for a couple of years, got bored, and then kind of followed my nose really. So that's kind of how my career unfolded, and I did all right for myself. And it was literally my 20th anniversary, and you got 4 weeks off for your 20th anniversary. And I got put at risk of redundancy. So it was I have to be honest with this whole transition of mine from corporate into business. It wasn't one where I was like, I had always wanted to be my own boss, but it wasn't one that I was brave enough to go and do what I wanted to do in terms of following my nose that way. I actually took a bit of a shove to look at it and to come to the conclusion that actually, yes, there is more to life than these four walls of this company that I've grown up in and I know, and it's time to spread my wings. And I had an idea of what I wanted to do, because even though everyone thought I was very confident, everyone, all my family and friends thought had this amazing career and I was super confident, I was traveling the world, and they were in awe of me. Inside I was an anxious mess. I felt like an imposter. I didn't feel like I fit in. I never felt like I was good enough. And so I had started on my journey before I left, before I made the decision to take the plunge and to leave, which was scary. I was leaving behind a six-figure salary, a very comfortable gig that I knew. And yeah, I'd started this journey to kind of really go, actually, like, who am I as a leader? How do I want to show up, whether it's in corporate or in my own business? And I started that journey of kind of unraveling some of the things that I'd learnt along my journey that had kind of shut parts of me off, put myself in a box, and made me feel like I had to be someone that I wasn't in that environment.
Now, let's just talk about leaving behind a six-figure salary, because obviously that's a big sense of security. And I know that there'll be a lot of people listening to this that have the desire to build a business, to become their own boss, but their financial security is the thing that holds them back. Now,
Mhm.
what have you learned about money since leaving that behind?
Oh, so much. So much, right? So I realize now I didn't actually have a very good relationship with money when I was earning that sort of money. So I got to the stage, I was very fortunate. I had my first big bonus, let's say, when I was like late 20s. So what I realize in hindsight is I was always in debt of some description. So I had the old catalogs. You probably don't even remember them, but you had the catalogs you used to order, and you used to get commission payouts every year. If you spent so much, you got like 10% back. So I always had like catalogs. Then I got store cards. So I had the old Debenhams cards and Next cards. So I always had these debts. And then I got brave and got my first loan. And then I got a credit card. So I always had, like, I was always cycling money in that way. But I got lucky in that I got these big bonuses that were like, I couldn't believe them, to be fair. I didn't actually think I deserved them, but there we go. That's a whole other track, right? So I would cancel off my debt every year, but then get into debt again. So I had this cycle going throughout my career. And I just found the more money I earned, the more money I spent, and the more debt I would get into. And it was interesting because just before I got the news of redundancy, I'd just taken out a loan, like a finance loan on a car. So I was paying back £500 a month, but that was okay. I could afford it. And all of a sudden, faced with not having that salary income, I was like, £500, a lot of money to pay out on a car. And I think obviously I'd been there 20 years. I left with a very decent payout. So I had that safety net, which I think a lot of people don't have the luxury of when they're faced with, the decision, do I stay or do I go? So that is something I want to be transparent about, because had I not had that, I may not have been brave enough to have left. But certainly I have almost like relearned the value of money, having moved away from just having that very comfortable income, and always knowing that doesn't matter if I get in a bit of debt because I'll get a nice little payout in March. So yeah, it's
And do you
become
think that that was kind of like a false sense of security in some senses, where it's the knowing that your paycheck's going to come, your salary, your bonus, so it
yeah,
was really easy to, step into that energy of just trusting that all would work out.
yeah, totally, because at any one point I could have been laid off, which is what happened to me. And at the time I thought that could have been the worst case scenario. That could have been like the death of me almost. It was that big in my mind that if that ever happened, it would be the worst thing that ever happened. But I realized that was not my own belief, that was installed in me by my parents.
Ooh. So do you feel like you defined yourself through your career?
Yeah, absolutely. And the biggest shift was like, who the fuck am I? Now I don't say I work in the Gherkin in London for a multinational company and I travel the world business class and I'm a managing director or whatever of digital analytics catalyst, even though no one knew what that meant. Who was I without that kind of title? That was the other big shift. So money was one, identity was a huge one to shift out of and into a new identity around being a leader in my own right and in my own business.
And it's funny because a lot of people tie leadership with money, and I see this all the time in the online space where they think if they were to have a 10K month, a 20K month, that suddenly they become more of a leader, which is bullshit, right? Because our leadership has nothing to do with our relationship with money. And I feel the biggest thing that I had to realize and accept in my journey is, where do I define myself through money, and how does that actually stop myself from leading? Because by constantly going back to money, I was the same. I got into debt very early. I was only 18 when I started to take out credit cards because I wanted to travel and I wanted to do all of the things. And I didn't have anyone to give me that money. So it was like, I'm just going to do it. And I don't regret it, but I feel for a long time, I defined myself by finances in a way where I had to learn, what am I without this? What does it look like to strip myself bare and realize maybe I don't need that thing. Maybe that doesn't define me. Maybe I don't need to have that just to have that. Like, what does it look like to be completely bare? And I was listening to a podcast a couple of months ago that was speaking about how right now in society, it's so easy for people to hold themselves at this financial level that they're not actually at. Because it's so easy for people to take out car loans and take out finances, and people take finance on ridiculous things that they don't, if you can't afford it, just don't get it. You don't need it. But it's the definition. So where did you stretch away from, I'm not going to define my success through things, I'm going to define it through me? And what did that journey look like for you?
Oh, it's been uncomfortable. It's really been uncomfortable. So what I realize now, so I'm 7 years, in October it'll be 7 years since I left, and I can't believe I'm saying that, but it has been a real journey of unraveling a lot of stuff, a lot of deep stuff that I didn't even know was there. So now, because of my like we still live in the same house that we could afford because of my job, right? But now our lifestyle is so much simpler that I don't need to earn as much money as I did back then. So there's definitely been a stripping away of the need for material things to give me that sense of purpose outside of my work, which I think is what I looked for. So I looked at the holidays, the cars, you know, just the nice things. And I've realized I'm not actually that material a person anyway. So I have replaced my shiny new Range Rover Evoque with a camper van, which I absolutely love. Now that was probably worth more than my Evoque by the end at the end of the day, but it's still something that I know I can get years of enjoyment out of, that's gonna allow me to move through life in a way that I know is more enriching to me than, you know, perhaps even going on those 5-star trips that I used to go on. So there's definitely been an unraveling, and it's been hella uncomfortable. Like in COVID, right? So in COVID, I had this fear of showing up and selling anything online. And so I actually had a few months where I had zero income. I was reliant on that point before we locked down on my Airbnb. For that was quite a regular kind of part of my income. And obviously we had to shut that down. So I had zero from there. I wasn't selling online because I felt like all sorts of ick around it. I was one of them that sort of shut myself down in the lockdown, and therefore I had a few months of zero, nothing coming in. So that was really uncomfortable. But I think in that time, a lot of stuff shifted in terms of like really understanding what is it we need to like actually pay the bills, pay the basic needs, still have a certain quality of life and enjoyment in life. And that's when I really looked at kind of reassessing what it was, and just knowing I'm a big home bird, and actually all of that traveling around the world and never being at home was stressful for me.
Yeah.
Even though it looked glamorous, but it was really stressful living out of a suitcase. And actually my favorite part about traveling was just being on my own, going through an airport where I could have my big noise cancelling headphones on and just be like just in my own little bubble. I didn't actually enjoy the being around lots of different new people all the time in that kind of very false environment. So
And it's such a reminder that things can look one way on the outside, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we feel that way.
yeah.
And I guess you might have looked like you had this big, vibrant career, but if you didn't feel that way, like what is the purpose? What is the bigger imprint on life? So what do you feel was like the pivotal point where you was like, do you know what? I have to lead my own life now. I've left my corporate career. I could either get another job or I can go down my own direction. Where did you get to that point of making the decision and feeling really grounded and strong in that decision?
I think the first time was probably around 2021. So coming out of that whole situation that we were all in as a collective, and just putting my stake in the ground and saying there is no going back. I don't miss it. I've never once regretted leaving. And as much as it would perhaps be easier to go back sometimes, it's not for me. I just know it's not for me. So there was that, but I think I have to continually come back to remind myself of that when it's hard, because it's not always easy. And as much as I love the freedom that I get to do what I want when I want with who I want, because that's a big driver for me, is the freedom and flexibility. There's still the times when I just wish it could be a bit easier and I could just have a
Yeah.
team to lean on and just like delegate some stuff and show
Entrepreneurship
up
is like
for
a
it. Yeah.
constant bitch slap. You just think you get grounded and then it's like, here, take a whirlwind.
Absolutely, yeah, totally. So it's a constant coming back and reminding myself that no, we're in it for the long game as well, right? It's not like I always used to measure my like remembrance of time based on, oh, I was in that role between those years, and then I went and did that role, and then I was that age when I was in that role. And like now it's like I have to go, flip me, it's been 7 years. Crikey, that was like a third of my time I was in my career. So it's just like that was just that 20 years, which was more than half of my life at the time I left, was just, you know, it's just a part of my story. And we're in this for the long game. So am I glad I'm not going to be in the same company for another 20 years? Absolutely. Do I know where I'm going to be in another 10 years? No, I don't. And that's kind of exciting too.
Ooh, I love that because that's the only guarantee. We're in the unknown. We all think we've got life figured out, but we really are in the unknown. And everything that we think we have attachment to, Like there's no guarantee. The only guarantee is that there's unknown around the corner. So looking at that, that's quite a nerve-wracking energy for business. And I guess it can really put a lot of people into this whirlwind and this panic of, well, I don't know what's around the corner. I need to make this and I need to make that. And what about this? And they go into this spiralization. How did you give yourself permission to become a beginner again, to like go to ground zero and work your way up from the ground, starting over? That must have been a lot of energy for you.
It was, but it was also when I look at how I've kind of gone through my career, I was always starting over again. Like each time I moved departments or went into a new role, I was starting over again. I was the new girl. So, and I loved that. I loved what permission it brings being new. Like you can ask all the questions, right? You can put the feelers out and you can approach people and you can say, I'm new to this. I want to learn, tell me all the things. And so that like freshness is something that I think I naturally bring to anything I do. And I think I'm always a learner, right? We're always learning. So when I look at some of the things that I've put myself through in terms of like courses and educational pieces since I've left, I'm always kind of like learning. My latest is just a trauma informed course that I've done with my dear friend Megan Clinton, who's a trauma psych, because I wanted to bring that into my work. I had this awareness that when we're working with people, we're working with trauma, and I wanted to know that I was doing the best to support the women that I work with. So yeah, there's always this newness. And I think if there wasn't that newness, I'd be bored. And I think that's the
Mm.
great thing when it's your own business, is you can make these twists and turns. And I've had many along the last 7 years, just little tweaks. And actually the kind of clarity I've had, or the coming back to like remembering that I've had in the last few weeks, is that actually it's always been about the same things. It's just like I've just taken different kind of looked at it from different angles and come at it from like a different way. But that keeps it fresh. And that's my little pivot. Those little pivots are those little new jobs that I did throughout my corporate career, which I think is just my natural nature.
And you said something there about, being in the space, like asking questions, figuring it out. And I feel people underestimate how valuable it is to just be in a space, soaking up the energy, asking questions, and digesting what's needed. Because when I look at my business, I had to get myself in spaces and be intentional with the questions that I was asking. And I recently wrote a post around, I don't want to be your therapist, I want to be your business coach, because I feel people waste a lot of time like not knowing the questions that they want to ask, whether that be in life experience, whether that be in business. And if I could go back to sitting with my granddad, for example, there were so many questions about life that I would ask him and be intentional with the question to get the response that I needed. But if I look at that in business, I feel that's leadership, when we can say, how am I going to cultivate this into a question or an understanding of what I need so that I can lead the direction of my surrounding? And that is just so potent when we can recognize, where am I detouring from the information that I actually want right now? So whether it's a course, a program, whether it's a modality that I'm going to add in, what do I want right now? What do I need right now? And how can I be intentional with it so that time doesn't get the better of me and I don't just leave the energy lingering? Because I can imagine when you're fresh out of the corporate space, you suddenly, sorry, I've got super dry mouth. You suddenly have all this time on your hands. And it's like, what am I going to do with my time? Like,
Oh
I've
my
got
God,
time.
yeah.
Do I put on a little bit of this morning? Do I like do this? Do I do that? How did you actually motivate yourself to stay intentional and to show up for what it is that you wanted to learn?
Oh God, again, it was tough. Like I have a vivid memory on my first week where I got my new laptop and I sat down on the Monday morning, showered, dressed, breakfast at 8 o'clock, and I opened my laptop and I clicked on my inbox, which was my Hotmail, and like all that was in there was junk. And I was like in order, it's almost panic, like this freeze mode, like what the fuck do I do now? Because I'd been so used to having an inbox full of people needing something from me, wanting something from me, wanting answers, wanting me to do things. I'd been so reactive throughout my entire career that I was like, this is not normal. Now I need to be proactive. I need to go out and create opportunities. I need to go out and like decide what it is that I'm going to do. Like, I get to use this time. So I did use a lot of time. Like, I gave myself 3 months when I left to like really just coffee date with everyone, catch up with everyone, sleep in, go to the gym, do whatever. And I can remember many happy moments where I thought, I'm going to a yoga class at 11 o'clock in the morning. Like, who'd have thought it? That felt like freedom to me. And then it was kind of like I'd hired my first business coach because I really didn't have a clue. And in hindsight, I didn't I didn't have a good enough idea of what it was that I wanted to create because I didn't really know. And therefore that first year with that business coach kind of really led me in a direction that perhaps I might not have ended up on my own if I'd have had a better idea, if I'd have perhaps taken some time to really like feel into what it was that I wanted. So I'm always like, one of the big things, the ways that I support women, in particular if they're thinking about leaving, is to like come up with a game plan, to like really sink into what it is that they're looking to achieve, what it is they want to create, and then come up with a game plan to actually go after that. Because I feel like, yeah, you're easily led when you come from a place where you get instructions, right? This is your role. These are the parameters of your role. This is your deliverables. Here's your goals. Go and do them. So you've kind of got this framework to work within, and that's what you're used to. And then you have nothing and anything goes. And it's like, I need someone to tell me where I'm
And do
going.
you think the human mind thrives on having some type of instruction? Because obviously, I love the combination of science and spirituality together and understanding the psychology of how the mind works and the science of how the mind works. I feel like it's human direction to have some instructions, whether you're a to-do list person, whether you're a graphic person, we have to connect with our learning type. But to have some kind of reward process where you know where you're going and what you're creating, it stimulates the body. It gives us a
Mm,
focus. It energizes the way that we're working and the way that we're gliding. And
yeah.
I think I truly believe, and especially as going through many phases of business, the flow stage of I don't want the structure, I don't want the game plan, I don't want any of it. To where I am now, I feel like I learned the hard way that that was never there to dishonor who I was or what I was trying to create. All it was there for is to enhance the experience that I was building.
Um,
So, what's your opinion of that?
Yeah, absolutely. I went through this. So I was a to-do list girl in my corporate career. I was the girl that got shit done. So I was in a very technical environment. We had underwriters, we had actuaries, they were the number people, the like number crunchers and that. That was not my bag, my jam. I was just the girl that got shit done. So I was like looked at for that. So I had multiple to-do lists and at home. Adam will joke about,
With my little, I've just been sat getting my little
oh,
work.
I've got that one. I've got exactly that weekly planner. Anyway, when I left, I was like, out with the to-do list. That's not who I am. I just want a free flow. I want to do what I want. I want to follow my nose. I want to like get up, decide what I'm going to do. And I for a long time I didn't achieve a lot. If I'm honest. And I think what that led to was a lot of procrastination, and it was freeze mode is my mode of fear, right? When I don't know what to do next, and I don't want to hit that go live button, and I don't want to write the post, I do nothing. So
Yes, and
I spent
that explains a lot of people because the how is a complex thing, but it's also a simplified thing. But the lack of being willing to figure out the how, it just keeps people in this isolation because it feels so heavy to try and be intentional and figure out what your how is.
especially when you've got such an overwhelming amount of conflicting information out there. So you go out there to seek the information. It's like, well, do I listen to that person or do I listen to that person?
Ooh, now that's a big conversation. So looking at that, like where did you, because I had to get to a point where I was like, I'm going to tunnel vision and I'm going to learn from the best of the best that I can take informations and snippets from, but I need to connect with my truth. And my truth is energy, capacity is in everything. It's in your strategy, it's in your energetic field, your expression, the way that you choose yourself. What did you have to balance out so that you could stop absorbing so much that is out there?
Mm. I had to realize that I was seeking answers outside of me when they are all inside of me. And what I value now in mentorship and a coach is someone that can help me draw that out and not tell me what to do. And that's because and that's a big reflection of the capacity I have as a mentor and a coach, because that's what I do for others, right? So I think it's taken me a while to find those people, and now that's where I invest my money. If I need help to untangle something, to just like really tap in deeper and just draw that out, then that's where I will invest my money.
Absolutely, because I think regardless of how much structure we can have in business, there's certain things that, will work for everybody. But then there's things that they have to be personalized. They have to be your personality. And some people, you can't give them this step by step, let's grow your business in this way, because it just doesn't make sense for them. And I know people who sell out their business with one-to-one, and others that are like, I don't want to do a one-to-one ever again in my life. So what structure works for you in business? What do you enjoy to do? What are the offers that you like creating?
Yeah, so I've tried all different ways, and where I keep coming back to is I just love the depth and meaning and all the things, getting up close and personal with people one to one. So that is my jam. That is what I love to do. I've got someone coming here this afternoon for an in-person, which is even better because I can
Oh,
see
yum.
them. I can spoil them. They're going to have some Reiki as well while they're here, which is another thing I love to do. So yeah, the one-to-one is the way forward with me. And I've tried them all, I've had a membership, I've had group programs, I've done all the things. And so I have experimented and can now safely say that even though you can have potentially a bigger impact by serving more people, one to many people, I know that the ripple effect of me working deeply with people it can just be as big an impact as well. So that's where I've landed. But again, that's not going to be the same for the next person by any stretch. So
Ooh, now final question, and I feel like this is a big one. So obviously you've come from the corporate space, you've had this successful career, you've made a lot of money. How did you find the shift from going from employed to CEO? Because that, as much as you've had this career where you've maybe delegated and asked for things, surely there's a shift in that.
yeah, it's huge. And I don't feel like I've finally nailed it yet, or that we'll ever finally
Do we
nail
ever?
it. Yeah. So for me, I feel like my next kind of phase is really to have a team. Like that's what I crave, is to like have team working with me to build this together. For now, it's like collaborations, it's other people that I'm working with to allow me to have that kind of connection on that deeper level as well. But it it is such a shift, because you have no idea the level of, like, I was a multitasker before, but this is on a
I am
different
not a multitasker. I have to be like focused on one thing and then I go here and then I go there.
I prefer to do that now, absolutely. But like, I never thought, like, I liked admin bits. So I think that's a key lesson for me, is like, it is so easy for me to do all the admin bits, but actually my business does not require my admin to look perfect. So when do you know to step out of doing on the admin pieces and actually be in the role of a CEO, of making decisions, of actually making those connections on that kind of bigger picture level. It's a learning curve, and it's uncomfortable. It is
And
uncomfortable.
profit first as well, I think, because I think we've got to get comfortable with, the admin things. We can grow and scale them throughout time. And that's something that I'm always looking at. Where can I advance and where can I get better at that? But I feel the profit first is the thing that is important. And it's also the thing that a lot of people take too much time with, meaning they'll try to get all the admin and the website and this and that perfect, but they've got no clients. So
Yeah,
it's pointless because
yeah,
it's not going to work. Your admin can't admin until you've got the business and the community to really thrive with that.
yeah, absolutely. And I think I've always been like I'm happy to roll my sleeves up, get my hands dirty, just to understand how it happens. And then I think it's knowing when to take a step back and then invest your money in actually getting the support to help make that happen, right? Rather than investing your money in potentially coaches and that kind of side of things. So yeah.
Oh yeah, because there's definitely a balance of, could I add someone in that has a different part of expertise so that I can take a backward step? And that's been something I've had to learn, because obviously your business is your baby and you want to put so much into it and you want to be doing the thing and always like learning the thing. And I value having one foot in my business at all times, meaning I know what's going on. But then I've had to get really intentional with who am I hiring that has expertise rather than just can do a little bit of everything.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Because you can do a little bit of everything, but you need someone potentially to fill a blind spot or to like really bolster you up or just like really plug a gap. So I think that's the key there as well. So yeah.
Absolutely. So tell us, where can we find you? Where can we work with you a little bit further? Tell us all the things.
So you can find me on Instagram, emmaclayton.xo. I am also on LinkedIn, Emma Clayton /coach, I think it is. You can find me on Facebook. I have the Modern Lead Her Way podcast. So that is my preferred means of putting my work out there in the world. So I love my podcast, and that's across YouTube and all your favorite listening platforms. And I guess so I've just started to bring human design and gene keys into my business because I'm all about really helping you drop the mask of fake confidence, step into that, really experience that true confidence in your most authentic leadership. So I love human design and gene keys because they give a flavor of what that looks like, not just in terms of like who you are as a leader, but also how you operate best as a leader. So I use that as another lens to look through. So I have, for anyone new to human design, I have my HD initiation. So I can drop the link for you, Rosie, for that. And then also when people are ready to kind of have that conversation about their next move, whether that's in corporate, because I also support women that are still moving through their corporate career, or whether it's taking the leap to leave and set up on their own, then the game plan sessions are like they pack a punch in a 90-minute conversation where we like get really clear on what it is that you want to create.
Amazing. Well, I will drop all of your links down below. Thank you so much for being here
Thank
with
you.
me. And I'll also drop the link to the Modern Her podcast so that everybody listening can digest all of Emma's energy and lean into her experience. Thank you so much.